Dana or Narcolepsy Kids, and I'm interviewing my Aunt Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Lee, and I'm school counselor for Virginia Beach City Public Schools. I've been a counselor for going on 14 years now in the elementary setting.
And I'm going to be asking her questions about accommodations you can get, because narcolepsy can be hard in school. So first question is, what is a 504?
That's an excellent question. A 504 plan is a plan that can help kids who have a mental or physical disability and they are struggling to be able to access their education. So, meaning that maybe something's kind of in their way, it's a barrier. So, the plan helps them kind of remove that barrier so they can access their education.
Okay. So next is, what is an IEP?
That's a great question. An IEP is called an individualized educational plan, and that's a little bit different than a 504 because where a 504 they're using the same curriculum, the same things that everybody else is learning. They're just kind of giving some steps to overcome a barrier. For an IEP, they may be changing the curriculum because a student has a need. So that's a little bit different.
So kind of like building a way around the barrier.
Exactly. So that 504 gives you steps to overcome the barrier. The IEP may change the curriculum completely.
Okay. And then the next question is, what are accommodations and how do you know when to ask for one?
That's a great question too. So an accommodation is basically a change of being able to access, and I say that word again, but I'm trying to think of a better word for it, being able to get to the curriculum. So accommodations may mean that they change the environment, meaning maybe a student needs to go to a small group for taking tests because perhaps they have difficulty concentrating. It may change some equipment. For example, if a student has a hearing disability, they might need to use some auditory devices that the teacher wears a microphone and it helps the student to be able to hear it.
Or if they have trouble gripping a pencil, they might be able to type up their work on a computer.
Absolutely. So it might change the equipment that way. Very good. Or sometimes it might even modify the what they're doing. Sometimes they might have extra time on a test. Perhaps they need a little bit of extended time because of difficulty with reading or difficulty with concentrating. So it's just adding just a little bit of ease for a student who's having a difficult time being able to get the same curriculum as everybody else.
Okay. And then the next question is, since you've already answered one of these, this next question was, what's the difference between an IEP and 504? But that's already been answered. So how do you get one?
That's well, what you have to do to get a 504 is your parent would call the 504 administrator or the 504 coordinator, and a lot of times in schools that could be the assistant principal, it could be the school counselor. They would just call up to the office and say, my student is we want to look into getting a 504. The 504 team comes together and meets and discusses what might be going on. Sometimes a student has a diagnosis such as narcolepsy. Sometimes they just suspect there's a disability, and if that's the case, then they need to find more information out. The team comes together and they decide whether or not a student qualifies for a 504 or if they need more information. And then they again come together and they decide if they do qualify for a 504, they come and create a plan together to create that.
And who would be on a 504 team?
That's a great question too. So for someone of your age, a student might be on a 504 team because you are an advocate for yourself. A parent is usually on there. A lot of times there's going to be an administrator. There's going to be a teacher, and sometimes all of the teachers, especially for middle school, they get to be a part of it because you might need different things in different classrooms. Sometimes you might have somebody like a reading specialist or a school psychologist or a school social worker.
Or a nurse.
Oh, absolutely, for health issues such as allergies, things like that. So it's quite a big team. Anybody who might be able to offer information to help that student.
And then continuing, like, how would you get an IEP?
So an IEP is, again, a little bit different. The process is through special education, and they would again convene the team and decide whether or not there's enough information to support a student having a disability that requires specialized instruction. So they might need to go into a special education setting, or they might need the curriculum changed. And if they do have enough information to support that, then they'll go ahead and create an IEP.
Okay. And then, what are some accommodations that might be useful? Well, this one I can answer myself.
I was gonna say you'd probably be a better
Like,
expert on that for
some of them-
narcolepsy.
Mhm. Like some of them you could get are maybe being able to take a nap during the day, or if you feel like you missed out on something, being allowed to like ask for like for someone to repeat it without
Retest.
like if you weren't feeling like you weren't really focusing on that.
How about a schedule? Could they say that you could come in later, or excuse some tardies?
Yeah, or even maybe have you drop out of PE.
Modify your schedule so that it could accommodate naps. And I think you've had a excellent school helping you with that, right?
Yeah. And then the next one is, who should I talk about getting a 504 or IEP at school with?
So again, that would be the 504 coordinator or the 504 administrator, and generally the parent calls up to request a meeting.
Okay. Next is, should I carry my 504 IEP with me?
I think that's an excellent idea, especially for older students, to remind you of the accommodations you're entitled to, and sometimes to even maybe show the teacher just to remind them, because if the 504 plan is in place, those are things that you have access to. And so I think it's a great idea to carry it with you and advocate for yourself.
And next is, do you have to use your accommodations?
That's a great question. From my understanding, you don't have to use them, but they have to be provided to you. So, for example, if a student, say, needs noise canceling headphones because they have trouble concentrating, they don't have to use them all the time. They just need to be available to them if that's on their 504 plan. So, no, not every time. And if you're not using it consistently, then perhaps because the 504 is a working document, we might want to reconvene the team and take a look at the accommodations and see if they might need changing, because maybe that one's no longer required.
And that leads right into the next question. What should I do if my 504 IEP isn't working for me?
Excellent. Yeah, because honestly, you're going to change as you get older and as your classes change. This is, again, a working document. So at any time, your parent can request a meeting and the team comes together and they discuss how things are going, and we can add or take away accommodations as needed.
And then next, what should I do if someone doesn't allow me to use my accommodations?
So I would say, being your own advocate, especially middle school and high school, the first thing I would do is speak to your teacher and say, I just wanted to speak to you about the accommodation on my 504 plan. I'm supposed to be able to have noise canceling headphones or a nap or a copy of the class teacher's notes or whatever it is that's on your plan, and say, I haven't been able to have that lately. Can we talk about this? If the teacher is not really listening to you, then I might go to the next step and either speak to your counselor or your parent. And then at that time, I think it would be appropriate to hold a meeting so that everybody is on the same page.
And like with that, it would be also useful to carry your 504 plan around to show that you have the accommodation.
Absolutely.
Like I keep my 504 plan in front of my binder and I have it free hole punch and everything.
I think that's a really smart idea, because teachers are human, and I say that because I'm an educator and with 500 students at my school, sometimes it's hard to remember all of the different needs of our students. So it's great to have a student who is open to coming to you and saying, hey, can we discuss this, please?
And then the last question is, will having a 504 IEP affect my college?
And to that, I would say it will not affect you getting into college. It should not impact the colleges accepting you or not, because that would be discrimination. A college is not required to put a 504 plan into place. However, they usually do put accommodations in place. And again, in college, it would be up to you as the student to advocate for yourself in that way. But no, it will not impact your ability to get into college.
Okay.
Okay.
So thank you.
Ooh.
And another one. Will my friends know that I have the 504 IEP?
No, not unless you feel like sharing it with them. That is confidential information. And so it is not something that anybody has to know. If you're comfortable sharing with them, I think that it's powerful to let them know, hey, there are things that help students like me who might need a little bit of help getting over this barrier because of the way I am. But no, nobody has to know unless you want them to.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for letting me talk to you.
Mhm.
Great job.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Bye, people.